religion need not be wrong, but if it separates you from humanity, if it separates you from God, if it creates divisiveness and fear, then it's not serving you and your higher self.
Welcome to Exploring the Mystical Side of Life with your host, Linda Lang.
Hi, this is Linda Lang from thoughtchange.com. We are exploring the mystical side of life. Once again this week, if you enjoy our conversations, remember to subscribe, share with a friend. I have modern mystics and spiritual teachers, Renee Blodgett and Anthony Campagnone, here with me today. Anthony is a channel for Yeshua and Miriam, otherwise known as Mary Magdalene. Welcome.
We are so happy to be here.
Yes,
Thanks for having us on your show, Linda.
I love your exploration of Mary Magdalene. First of all, as modern mystics, you've been on your path for a while. I will assume, can you share a little bit about how that started and how that path has bloomed for you?
It's been over 10 years that I've been channeling. It's something that just came upon me. It's nothing that I was seeking. I did a lot of meditation and yoga. I did a lot of Kung Fu, which is a lot of energy work when I lived in New York. But when I moved to San Francisco, something happened, which I couldn't explain. And for some particular reason, spirit started coming through me and speaking. And it took a great deal of time, many, many, many years, to be grounded, to accept it, and to learn how to control it.
Qigong was really great for that, actually.
I had done a lot of Qigong also when I lived in New York as well. So all of those things that I did in New York also played a huge part in being able to control the energy that was coming through. It took a long time, a lot of practice.
Would you consider yourself a trance channeler, or are you conscious when you channel?
I am conscious, but I also am I would call it an expanded state of awareness. I always say that we're always here, but then when I start to channel, it gets like this. My hand's going to leave here. It gets wide.
So imagine we're stuck in these restrictive bodies, right? And this is for people who are just listening on audio. You were stuck in these restrictive bodies, and, this is the Kundalini awakening that happens, right, for people, and people call it different things. But as the energy starts circulating up through the nadis and through the chakras, more energy is wanting to expand, right? Because we're spirit, we're energy beings. And so that shaking that people have when they're going through a spiritual transformation is the spirit wanting to expand outside of this physical shell that we call humanness. And that's really what was happening to Anthony in the early days.
But still, when I go into an expanded state of awareness or a trance state, you'll see my hand will start shaking and the energy starts to go to different places. I can control where the energy goes in my head or in my hand, but there always will be some type of shaking as the energy is moving through me.
I hope later on you'll give us a taste of your channeled wisdom.
Only say the word.
Say the word.
Funny sense of humor too. So.
It's all good. Spirit loves that kind of playful laughter, right? It raises vibrations, so it's good.
Most definitely.
Our guides will always say to us, if you're not having fun on your journey, what's the point of doing it? You need to have fun. And I think a lot of times we can get very serious on a spiritual journey. Are we doing it correctly? What's my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing here? Do I have karma? All of these things kind of come into play, when in fact the messages are quite simple, at least what come through us. And that's really love, love each other and connect to each other and focus on love and focus on unity, not divisiveness, that, we are the same. We're not separate. We're not separate from each other, and we're not separate from God or the goddess or, whatever that energy is for you.
So I'm curious what the fascination with Mary Magdalene is. How did that open for you?
I was channeling for about 3 or 4 years, and then all of a sudden, this energy came through and said, I am
Miriam
Miriam
of Magdala.
of Magdala. And we said, well, who is that? I only knew Mary Magdalene from growing up from some religious studies, but we didn't know exactly who she was. And then she came through and started talking. And that's when she never left.
It was slow at first.
It was very slow.
It was
yeah.
slow at first. It was almost, depending on how far you are in the book, right? In the beginning, there's this explanation of what's happening to the main character, Angelo. And it's this idea that we are all energy beings. So imagine that we have antennas sticking out of the top of our heads, right? Almost these invisible antennas as energy, and we're connecting to other dimensional realities or other dimensional frequencies. So in the book and in our teachings and all of our channelings, we refer to them as frequencies. We're all frequencies, right? And so we're just vibrating at different speeds almost. So, a lot of times in the beginning, they would say, slow down, Anthony, or we're trying to come down to your frequency or meet you somewhere so the frequency match can happen and a connection can be made. And that's kind of how it worked.
Yeah, I had to fine tune. I always say this to Renee and to the audience that it's like an old radio where you had to hit the frequency, you had to fine tune it, and you had to find it. And it took a lot of practice to do that.
Yeah, that's really what it was like. And in the beginning, it seemed as if she was coming through to fine tune that signal to a point where it was strong enough and seamless enough where she could come through and speak fluidly so that she could tell us her story. And it really was like the book where, Rochelle, the main character, is getting frustrated and saying after weeks of her visit, why are you really here? I mean, really, why are you here? We're not religious. What's going on? And so, that was when she's like, well, I'm here to tell you my story. It's long overdue.
And she did every night.
And so you've written a book about Mary's or Miriam's journey that comes directly from her in spirit. Is that correct?
Yeah, you could say that. And the narrative that is written around it is the reason that it's visionary literature and historical fiction. It's because that narrative woven around it was put into novel form to really make it approachable. And, because some of the language in there can be a little esoteric. And so I felt like our experience with it, asking what seemed to be like stupid questions. Well, what do you mean multidimensional soul? What does that mean? Would be helpful because that's really what it was like for us. So when the teachings came through, it wasn't just about her life. It was also teachings from the old brought anew. So things like our quantum universe, things like the Akashic records, right? When Anthony was in this altered state and his head would shake back and forth and Rochelle's trying to figure out what's going on. And Miriam said, well, he's in the Akashic records with me. We're going into my Akash. And Rochelle's asking, well, what does that mean? So there's this dialogue of really trying to understand what's happening. What truly are the Akashic records? What is a multidimensional soul? If the physicality is really a perception, or the Maya, right, or illusion, as they call it in Eastern traditions and also in South America, are we even real, right? There's quantum physics books that are trying to be simplified today, like Adam Becker's book, What is Real? Are we real? So all of these teachings come up in the book.
Which we had to do a lot of research as well.
Yeah.
In quantum physics, quantum mechanics. I had to delve deep into history of antiquities. We'd have to go back like sometimes 2,000-3,000 years BCE. And I had to do lots and lots of research. It was necessary because that's where she was taking us.
Yeah, I mean, she was taking us into the Isis teachings. And of course, we knew about Isis. I mean, she even sits on my altar. So we knew about the Isis energy, but we didn't truly understand it.
Yeah.
And so, we went down this whole path of studying gods and goddesses, which was super fun, super fun. And that's kind of where the archetypes are brought up and references to people like Joseph Campbell and Jean Houston, Dr. Jean Houston, who I absolutely love, and how that mythology of these archetypes in history can lead us into, or I should say, lead us towards and into our higher selves, right? It's a pathway. It's a pathway to get there.
It's also a very personal path as well. When you start exploring your own spirituality, you start to discover who you are in this lifetime and who you once were in many other lifetimes as well.
Why do you think it was so important to her to have her story told now?
I think that she's always been trying to tell her story, that it's always been crushed. But now, as human beings, we have the ability, we have the freedom to allow ourselves to connect directly with Source. And when we do that, everything starts coming to us. And she's a very important energy being that wants to tell her story about how life was for women, for Jewish women in particular. She will definitely stress how Jewish she was.
That's to correct a wrong in history also, right? That the Catholics kind of jumped on Mary and Jesus. And, in the beginning of the book, she really talks about that, and there's a cynicism there in the beginning where Rochelle finally concedes and says, okay, really, you're going to tell us your life story? Where shall we start? And she said, we're starting right now. Let's start with my appearance. And Rochelle cracks up because she's like, of all the things you could start with, why would you start with your appearance? And she said, well, let's start with the first thing that humanity got wrong. There's many. But, why would humanity depict me with, pure white milky skin and Mother Mary to be the same with blue eyes? She said, that's not who we were. Did they do that to make us more like them so they could feel comfortable? She said, we were Jews. We weren't Catholics. We weren't Christians. Those religions didn't even exist back then. So there's an angst in her voice. There's not anger, there's a frustration in her voice and a sense of humanity's had it wrong, and I'm here to correct that. We were Jews. We walked in the desert, and we didn't have sunscreen. We had weathered, colored skin. We were from the Middle East. And so I think, the reason she started there was really as a way to demonstrate just how not silly, but just really how corrupted the message has been for millennia. And she wants to fix it. Yeah.
And perhaps now we have the ears to hear.
And the eyes to see.
Exactly. I'm curious, Anthony, when you channel her, do you feel the emotions from her, or is it just kind of the thought patterns, the words that come through you?
Very emotional. She has cried through me many, many times. And when Yeshua or Jesus comes through, and when Miriam comes through, I can feel their emotional content of who they once were 2,000 years ago. So it's a very emotional journey for me as well.
And do they talk about what they're up to now, what their role is now?
They do. So Yeshua will often come through, and I want to tell something first to all of the audience as well. The people that once walked this earth 2,000 years ago, Jesus or Yeshua, and Jesus comes from a Latin from Jesus.
And Yeshua was his real name in Aramaic, which is the primary language of the time.
And Miriam, she'll say Miriam, or she'll use that R that they used to use. You have to remember that they are energetic beings, that the perception of humanness that they once were the Jesus or the Miriam don't exist anymore. They are beings. We'll call them maybe souls.
Or whiffs of smoke, as really how Lazarus explains it in his chapter.
So when they are able to connect with us, they will manifest themselves as they once were. And again, time is relative. There's no
time
itself in the quantum world. But they'll say, we will manifest ourselves as we once were. So when he comes through me, he will manifest himself as he once were. However, it is in my perception of who Jesus once was.
Because it's working through a human host.
It has to work through a human perception of reality. So Jesus is the individual who I grew up with as well, a very loving and caring being. And that's how he will manifest himself. He's very
loving.
Miriam, on the other hand,
is loving, but strong.
Strong, like your coach, like a very good, strong coach. That's who she is. She appears to be more masculine sometimes than feminine, but she is very feminine when she comes through as well.
She's like your Joan of Arc or a female Martin Luther King. She's here with a very important message, as is Yeshua, just they communicate it in different ways, but it's humanity, get your act together, start seeing the similarities in each other, start understanding that you're not separate from any living thing, you know, not just other human beings, but every living thing in this universe, right? You know, I was a little bit nervous when I sent the manuscript to Dr. Jude Caravan, who's a cosmologist in the UK, went to Oxford. I mean, she's just an amazing, incredible cosmologist and studied physics. And, you know, she did actually do a quote for the book. The reason that she loved it was because we make these connections between, I mean, there's one point we even quote something from one of her books, The Story of Gaia, and that we have more in common with a meteorite than you think. You know, and she just loved that Miriam and Yeshua were bringing in the cosmos, bringing in the fact that, you know, we are stardust, we are from that. And so there's a lot of overlap between science and spirituality. And I think that's always been important to us in our work, is that connection, that we shouldn't deny one for the other. They're really one and the same. Yeah.
Is there anything that history didn't get right about Mary Magdalene?
You know, she was a partner of Yeshua.
She will say that she was married to Yeshua. They did have, in this timeline, she'll say they had one child. She'll call her Sarah, and that she healed directly with Jesus, with Yeshua, not separate from him, and that she helped to prepare him for his path. Behind every great man, there's a woman that's even greater, and she lets you know that. And
I mean, not as a way to stroke her own ego. It's really more that how many women have been left out of history and holy books? How many women have, you know, I'm reading a book now called Lessons in Chemistry, and it's about a woman who was a chemist and a scientist and what she went through in the 1950s just to make herself known, you know, where her papers were stolen by her male bosses, where she was raped in the lab. She lost her job because, you know, she had a child out of wedlock, but to a man she loved, you know, all of these things. And that was the 1950s. So imagine what women went through 2,000 years ago. You know, her father wanted to marry her off to a man that she didn't love. That still happens today in the Middle East. And so I think, you know, we need to look at history through a different lens completely. You know, there were so many powers in control at the time, you know, initially the Romans and then later on the Catholic Church. And there was a certain narrative and storyline that needed to be in place for put this softly, but really for people to be controlled. I hate to use that word, and, I apologize for listeners who might be offended by that, but that's really kind of what happened, right? And that control is essentially this, that you need a synagogue, you need a mosque, you need a church, you need an institution, you need a priest, you need a rabbi.
Are you dabbing?
Yes, I'm dabbing, right? The Wailing Wall, and you need all of this to get to God. And the message of Yeshua and Magdalene back then, and that holds true today, is that no, you don't need that. They're not making religion wrong. They're saying, you know what? It's amazing for community, because community is so important. That's our number one teaching too, is that community is a pathway. And so religion need not be wrong, but if it separates you from humanity, if it separates you from God, if it creates divisiveness and fear, then it's not serving you and your higher self. It's not feeding love, it's feeding fear. And so that is a fundamental shift also, and a message that really wasn't so much wrong about only Mary Magdalene, but it was wrong about Yeshua. It was wrong about a lot of the initial early teachings of the church, right? Is that this separateness, right, that keeps us divided. And here we are 2,000 years later in a state of global crisis because of that divisiveness. So I think the message is really about unity and connection and love, right? That was really Yeshua's original teachings. If you look at the Gnostic Gospels, if you look at the Gospel of Thomas, and even in the Bible itself, if you look at some of the original teachings, they also talk that you didn't need this institution to find God.
Which Bible?
Yeah, I know. That's the other thing.
Are you talking about the Jewish or the Christian?
Well, I know either, but the point is, it's in there too.
I just want to mention something quickly. Through all of the channeling that we've done for so many years, the beings that would come through, we have this other set of beings, and they're hilarious beings. They're so funny.
We call them the Ascended Masters.
They said, if you want to call us that. But in truth, they would tell Renee and myself, you have no idea how Jewish you are. And we're like, what? We weren't raised Jewish. After years and years of research that I had to do, I have found out that on my own personal journey, all of my Italian relatives were Jewish from Naples. And they were all on the list, all the surnames on the list of the inquisitors. So when I tell your audience, when you go on a spiritual journey, you'll have no idea what you're going to find about yourself.
If you dig deep enough. Yeah.
And as time went on, too, these beings that have been with us for 10 years, they're all Pharisees. And they call themselves Pushim.
Among other things.
Among other things.
They're not just Pharisees, but...
I know the Pharisees got a bad rap, but they were the very early rabbis of the common people. And that's how they are when they come through also, and they'll speak like that because they were all human at one time.
Yeah, we do have funny moments, Linda. It's never boring in our house.
They love wine.
Yeah, sometimes we'll be watching a movie and our crazy Ascended Masters will come through and I'll be like, what are you coming through for right in the middle of the movie, And they'll come through for a teaching moment, or, I'm like, sometimes you guys are a little dull like old Jewish men.
And they'll say, we are.
Some of us are old Jewish men.
It's hilarious. You must have a voice recorder that you carry with you for the moment when they pop in.
Sometimes, yeah.
Oh, we used to do that all the time, but now it's...
Yeah.
They just come through and they'll say, we're only really here... Well, they'll say, first, we're here to drink your wine, but really we're here to maintain Anthony's channel. They're just...
You have to have a sense of humor.
They have a very dry sense of humor.
But I think that's a lesson for like when you're on your spiritual path.
Yeah.
And there is a teaching in the book as well, that also comes through us regularly. And I think this is an important thing to bring up for your audience, because the mystical side of life. when you're on a journey like this, things may start to come to you. So for us, it was originally gods and goddesses, and then these crazy ascended masters, right before Yeshua and Miriam showed up. And I think that it's important to recognize as you're being drawn to something, whether it's a goddess like Isis or a Celtic goddess like Hecate or Diana, or, you know, whatever is coming to you, or maybe it's Kuan Yin, or maybe it's Buddha, or, you know, whatever that path is, follow it, because it's like, this is the best way to think about it. It's like your hair. So think of all the hairs on your head. You know, this is an analogy that they use in the book as well for the soul. So your head, or the tree trunk, they will say, is the soul, and the branches off the tree are all of your life experiences, and then the leaves off the branches are your past lives, or you know, your past experiences, all of your experiences. And then it's, you know, it's the same with the hair, right? Each hair is a life experience that you're having, and it's not past, present, or future. It just is. So in other words, when you're having these, I don't know what you want to call them, these intuitive downloads, or you're having, oh, I want to go to Egypt and I don't know why, or I want to go to Peru and I don't know why, or I want to go walk on Irish soil. It's probably because there's something at a soul level that's calling you there to help you awaken to your true authentic self. It's a hair on your head that's saying, pick me, pick me, pick me. I'll help you wake up. And so then you go on this trip to Ireland and you have this mystical experience. And it's like, I remember something. I feel more connected to myself. And so that's the journey, right? That's the journey. And then it keeps unraveling, right? Because it doesn't stop in Ireland. It starts in Ireland, you know, and then suddenly you're in Turkey, or, you know, suddenly you're in your own backyard and you're having a deep conversation with your grandfather, and more comes out. So that's really the path. You know, as Miriam says, or I think it was Yeshua who said, become the energy that you most connected to, and become it, literally become it.
It may be something that is so far out, like a galactic type of energy.
Yeah.
That too might come as well.
Like if you're connected to sacred geometry, maybe you want to start looking into Metatron and Melchizedek and
things like that.
And things like that. So yeah, we've channeled them too.
Follow the breadcrumbs, right?
Yeah, that's a simplified version.
Follow the breadcrumbs.
Hope I didn't get too complicated there.
It's good. It's good. Anthony, I would love to have a channel if you're game, whoever would like to come in.
Yeah. Let me think here. Okay.
Do you get a say, or do they just pop in?
Oh, I get to say.
Yeah, but they'll both pop in. And I'll tell you why they'll both pop in, because the message has been clear about the balancing of masculine and feminine, and how there's no difference between.
Let me just call through
Yeshua and Magdalene.
All right. So when I go into channel, you'll start hearing my breath slow down. For all of the yogis and yogini out there, it's an ujjayi breath.
Or an ocean breath, they call it.
Or ocean breath. And you'll see my hand shaking a little bit. As the energies, as I start to expand, the energies start moving up Kundalini. My body will shake a little bit. I'm in no pain. And I've done this, I don't know, thousands and thousands of times now. And it's just a thought away. Remember, they're here because we're here.
Already.
They don't go anywhere because we don't go anywhere. And they'll let you know that. Whenever you want to connect, you just slow down. Slow down to whatever you're doing. So I'm going to close my eyes. I think to them through my heart, not through my mind. So I will feel Yeshua. So everybody there, out there now, just relax. Close your eyes. Be aware of your breath. Let's set the intention of having Jesus, Yeshua, come to us. Yeshua is always here with us. Whenever we need, we just say the name Jesus, Yeshua, and the being will come to us. There is no fear. There is only love here. Love is the energy of the universe. It connects all of us. One.
So when you hear the clicking sound too, that's the energies coming in and the frequency change that happens when you hear the clicking.
Good. I am here. It is good to see you, Gaia.
It's good to see you too.
I understand why I'm here.
This is Linda.
Greetings.
Are you happy?
I am happy.
Is your work meaningful?
Mostly.
Do you enjoy your profession?
Yes,
Are you serving others?
definitely.
Definitely.
Do you work from the heart?
Yes.
Good. Then that is good, Linda, isn't it?
Yes.
Often human beings will wonder what their purpose is in life. And it is simple. To do what you love and do it from your heart. There you will find yourself, your true self, the authentic self, as Miriam will say. One with God, one with Source, one with universal consciousness. Good. It is good to see all of you again. I know Anthony's nose is a little bit plugged.
It is a little stuffy today, yes.
But I can still breathe with him.
Do you have any questions for Yeshua?
About 1,000,000 of them, but Joshua, what is the one thing that we could all take to heart that could really help us shift into that more authentic space?
Mm.
If there is one thing.
Love yourself. Love yourself. Love thyself. Love thy true essence. You must love who you are as an individual, as a being, before you can love others, before you can give that to others. Let go of your fears. They don't serve you either. Remember that you are all connected all the time, at every single moment, with every thought, every word, and that you are truly light, pure light, essence, connected to the universe and beyond. And that will never change. Do not focus on that which you don't want. Focus on that which you are, and that is love. You are true manifestors of everything that you could possibly feel and think. Become that. I, Yeshua, I am here to tell you that I am not the way as I once was. I am through you now. I wish that all of you become the way, the way showers, the light, so that you may show others who they are in this lifetime, as you're doing right now, Linda, with so many. I am that which I am, and you are that which you are. And you are love, and you are loved always and eternally. I hope that helps.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful message. And I thank you for coming and sharing it with us.
Linda, those who have ears and those that have eyes, those that have an open heart and can receive, I shall always be there. Always. Thank you, Gaia. Would you like to speak with Miriam now? She too is here.
She's waiting in the wings. I can feel her.
As she should be. My other half, my better half, if you will. 1 second, please. It is always an honor and privilege to be here with all of you. Peace be with you all.
Whenever there's a transition, and this hasn't changed since the beginning, his eyes will never blink. They don't blink at all. And then when there's like the transition that happens and the clicking of the, throat, you'll hear that. And then I will feel jolts in his body several times. And then finally, when the connection's made, there's a release. I was just kind of explaining that because I've never really explained that before.
Good. I'm glad. That is why you are here, to assist, to help, to write, to be, to become me again, but in a different way. I am Miriam of Magdala or Miriam of Magdala. I am the Magdalene. And it is good to see another sister here. And yes, you were a follower, if you will, of Yeshua and of the Magdalene, I will say, in a way that you didn't know.
What do you mean by that?
She was a follower of Yeshua.
When they go back and forth with his head, they're in the Akash.
Not just once, but many, many times over. Now, sister, you are learning about who I once was as well, and about the book that I wrote through Renee, or I refer to her as Gaia, and through Anthony.
We did have something to do with it.
Yes, you did. I understand that. I do.
I know.
I believe your names are on the book. But we had a good time writing it, didn't we?
We did.
Many times. We did.
We did.
We do many things together, you and I. And I wish to tell everyone there as well. If you wish that I come through you, all the women and men as well, if you wish, just think about me. Focus upon my energy. Read about me. Get to know who I am. And I will come through you. Sit quietly. Walk quietly. Whatever it is that you do it quietly and ask. And then you will feel me come through to you, with you. And we will work together as one to raise the vibration of the feminine aspect of this world. Again, where it once was, it will be again. Equals male and female energy coming together as one.
There is a point in the book where you mentioned that you are also the Sophia, the wisdom, the feminine face of God.
Yes, I am that aspect as well, the Shekinah.
Yeah.
I am the feminine aspect of God. Yeshua is the masculine aspect of God. But in truth, there is no masculine and there is no feminine. There only is. And that is where we are going together to discover that is, that we are, that oneness as we once taught before, we teach this again, but in a different way, don't we, Gaia?
We do.
We bring science and spirituality together, and other things. Soul, do you have a question?
I love your interaction with your host and your host's partner. I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about the unity of all things, that it's not just a higher wisdom from someplace coming to a lower wisdom. It's not just a high spirit from someplace coming to a place of lower spiritual quality, let's say. It's not like that at all. Can you speak to the unity of creation?
The unity of creation. Creation. You, all of you, everyone believes that you are separate. You're not. You're already here. Everything is here. Your heaven and your hell are all here. You decide what it is that you wish to become within this creation of oneness. Do you wish to experience it separate?
I was just going to say, what we're always creating and co-creating in every moment.
Yes, that is true. We are, you are, we all are universal consciousness. That is to say, and I'm going to put it out there for everybody here, whether you like it or not, I am not here to be liked by any of you. I'm here to give you a message of who I once was. I was female, I was Jewish, and Yeshua and I taught together about unity consciousness, but in a way that they could understand 2,000 years ago. They could not understand quantum aspects of the soul, nor could we as persons. But now, through Anthony and Renee, we can do this. And with you, Linda, we can do this. You understand. And you give this to your audience. Everything is here. God is here. She is here with you. God is who you are. If you choose to accept the mission, then do so. If not, that too is okay. If you have ears to hear, listen, eyes to see, then see, a heart to fill with love and unity, then do so. But it's okay if you don't. It is your experience here in this dimensional reality. You are still of light and love no matter what. You understand?
I do.
She's a good listener, isn't she?
She's a good interviewer.
I like her.
I have one more question.
Yes.
How important is this life that each of us are living at the moment?
Mhm.
We have choice, we have free will. You just said we can choose whatever path we like. We are still light and love.
That is true.
But
How important.
Yeah, but we are sovereign beings.
Sovereign, free,
Yeah.
liberated.
Meaning that we can choose our path.
Yes. How important is it? Ah, that is a good question, isn't it?
Mhm.
Well, let's see here. Every word, every thought, every feeling, every touch, every caress
Matters
matters.
a lot.
But why? Because what you do here in this vibration that you call Earth, we're going to go into a quantum aspect of what you refer to as string theory. Sorry about that. There are multiple yous having multiple experiences simultaneously in the multiverse. So what you do here, you do there.
So this thread of hair, that is the frequency of one aspect of the soul, affects all the other hairs.
Exactly. So have a kind and beautiful experience.
Because it has a ripple effect on everything else.
What you do to yourself, you do to others. Same message 2,000 years ago, just put in a different way, that's all.
So what would you have said 2,000 years ago?
Know thyself, know thy Father.
Hmm.
Know who you are, and you will know God.
Hmm.
If you can understand that. But you can understand that a little bit more now, can't you? You understand that Father really isn't Father, Mother really isn't Mother. It's really you. You, all of you. You are the source, the consciousness of the universe that you refer to as Adonai, Hashem,
Elohim.
Elohim, Deus, Dio. However,
Allah.
Allah, yes.
Or Godde, God.
So, do you understand now? That's how important it is about the work that 1, 2, and 3 are doing right now to spread the message of unity consciousness of who you all are in this lifetime. So yes, it does matter, doesn't it, Gaia?
Yeah. Because we're all vibrating our frequencies of love and unity or hate and divisiveness.
Right.
We get to choose that in each and every moment. And so when sometimes it feels so hopeless out there, or that things are falling apart, or that Canadians are worried about becoming the 51st state of the United States, or whatever it happens to be, right? You've lost a loved one. When things feel like they're falling apart, just go back to your own source of wisdom and love and be the light. This is why we're here. We go through cycles in the world. It hasn't always been easy. It's been much tougher, right? 2,000 years ago, where
even 100 years ago,
it was much more brutal, right? People
Yes.
were killed and so forth. And so
and what do I always say, Gaia?
be the light, be the love.
And are human beings
Kinder now.
Yes, they are.
Even if it doesn't feel that way. And
Yes.
so it's up to us really to be the light in our own backyard. We don't necessarily have to, and you say that too, even in the book you say that leadership comes in many, many different forms, and being a leader to your grandchildren can be just as important as being a leader of a country. Yeah, because it has a ripple effect.
One soul at a time.
Yeah,
Isn't that true?
it is true.
Good.
Yeah, you think of that movie, Holland's Opus with Richard Dreyfuss, and he wanted to do his magnum opus and create this, he wanted to compose this beautiful piece and never got away from being a high school music teacher, and then of course, as the movie unfolds, if you haven't seen it, he makes an impact on one student who becomes the mayor, and it's a female, right? And the impact that I always get emotional every time I tell that story.
That is okay.
Well, I used to work for Richard Dreyfuss years ago, and he's a great person, and he's a historian. And so I feel like that was like the most Richard Dreyfuss ever in that movie was who he was, and representing this beauty and this truth of the fact that you don't need to do that. Being a high school teacher can have an impact on hundreds, if not thousands.
That is correct.
Right.
And let me say
I know.
this.
I don't know why I still get emotional.
It is
telling that
okay
story.
to be emotional.
I just love that movie.
Don't take that away from us as women. We are emotional beings, and that is the true source. That is how I showed Yeshua how to connect directly with source itself. It is through your heart and through emotions that you connect with your higher self, which is source and truth, isn't it? So you can be emotional, Gaia. It's okay. You have permission.
Yes.
Very
Yes.
good.
It's our power, ladies.
It is, isn't it? It is our power.
Yeah.
It is our power to the divine, the divinity of who we are.
You know, the funny thing about living with a man who channels a woman is that I have to share my scarves.
Yes, you do. All things beautiful with him. It is important, isn't it?
I know sometimes my scarves disappear.
And beautiful necklaces as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam.
It has been my honor and privilege that you are here to listen and to hear us. I'm going to step back. I am going to let Anthony's light shine a bit more. I simply dim my switch a little bit and let his energy come forth a little bit more. Amazing.
A parting message.
A parting message. Oh, hold up my book. That.
Oh, this is the
It doesn't matter.
no, it's not. It's the manuscript version.
This is who I once was. Get the book. I'm not going to be shy about it. We did a lot of work together, didn't we?
We did. We did.
Rise, ladies. Rise. Ascend and become again who you truly are in this lifetime. Enjoy the ascension process. Enjoy opening up again.
To spirit.
To spirit, which is you. I love all of you dearly. Yeshua the same. Breathe. Relax. Have fun and love each other endlessly. I will see you later. It is always an honor and privilege to be in the presence of such wide open beings.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for receiving us. Be well, Linda Lang.
Thank you.
1 second, please. Thank you, Gaia.
Thanks for being here. She always looks at my necklaces when she leaves now. She's had us starting to make jewelry, can you believe? So you'll notice as she leaves, you see how the eyes don't blink and then there's a jolt. It's always been like that ever since the beginning.
Ooh.
That must have been quite a transition into being a channel when it's such a intense transition between the spirit coming in.
Very intense.
I mean, it's gentle now. In the beginning, I had never heard of Edgar Casey in the very beginning because, you know, my path was a little bit different. And so suddenly we started learning about different things. And I was reading about Edgar Casey. It was very similar for us. You know, Edgar Casey's known as the sleeping prophet, you know, where stuff would come through. And it was kind of like that in the beginning. Anthony was in the dark. We couldn't have the light on. We couldn't have much noise.
No.
He couldn't move. He couldn't, you know, he couldn't walk. Yeah, it took a couple years to get to the point where he could actually be in a lit room and be able to come in and out, you know, and it was just over time, right? Over time with lots of practice. I remember the first time the guides came through in a restaurant and I thought, you've got to be kidding me. And they said, don't worry, we're just practicing so that we can do this out in public. and for it to be so seamless that nobody will notice.
It really was for us, baby steps.
Yeah, it was weird.
It was baby steps.
Yeah.
Many years.
We won't lie to you. It was very strange for us.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you both here with me today, all four of you.
Yes.
And then some.
Where can we send people who'd like to know more about your work?
Well, our main website is www.bluesoulearth.com, bluesoulearth.com, and we are Blue Soul Earth on all social media channels. And then on Instagram, we're Blue Soul Earth, Magdalene's Journey, which is the name of the book, and also Magdalene Collection, which is her jewelry line, which we started. So themagdalenecollection.com is where you can see the jewelry that we've been making through her. And then we do have a podcast called Blue Soul Chats, and we interview a lot of people making a bridge between science and spirituality. So that's really the focus. So there's a lot of PhDs on there, but not all. There are some spiritual teachers as well. And that's Blue Soul Chats on every single podcast channel. And I know we have a lot of stuff going on, don't we?
Yes.
And then studywithspirit.com is the last place I'll send people to. And that's where we have some guided meditations and then 2 membership programs. One is Magdalene Sisters, which, sorry, gentlemen, it's for women only.
Except when I come in.
Except for, he does come in for part of it for the channeling. Okay. And then Blue Soul Ignite is for everybody. And that's where we are with Yeshua and the Gnostic teachings. And we really go deep into the teachings. And you can find out more about those on studywithspirit.com.
Beautiful. Thank you again.
Well, thank you so much. This
has been great.
I know, this has been wonderful. It's been so beautiful to meet you, and we appreciate the opportunity, Linda, to get Magdalene's voice out to the world.
And thank you for listening to this week's edition of Exploring the Mystical Side of Life. You will find all of our conversations on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. Come visit me at thoughtchange.com. Pick up your copy of Learning to Listen, and we will see you again next time.